but I've been a planner. I always laugh and say, if you came to my house when we were little kids, I would have already planned out which board games we're gonna play first, second, and
Wow.
third. Yeah,
Wow.
I was that kind of. My husband says you take the fun out of stuff. I said no, I just don't want to miss anything.
So welcome to the Meaningful Jobs podcast season 2. I'm your host Adrian, and today I'm extremely honored to welcome Monique Smith, who is involved in athletic management and has her own podcast actually, and it'll be great to get her thoughts on the meaning of work. So how are you, Monique? Hope you're doing well.
Doing really well.
Very good, thank you. So, straight off the bat, I was very fascinated when you told me a little bit about your athletic management company and your podcast because not a lot of people would associate these two necessarily. So, could you maybe tell us how you got to this stage, maybe?
Well, I am an athletic administrator, a veteran of 30 years. So
Wow.
I started out as a sports information director at a college
Right.
and eventually became athletic director at that institution.
Mm,
I was there for 8 years.
yeah.
I was at a Division I institution for 2, and then I worked for athletic conference office for 13.
Right.
And leaving the conference office, I became a full-time entrepreneur. So
Right.
I've been doing full-time entrepreneurship for 10 years. My first gig, if you will, was being a consultant for the NCAA, doing leadership workshops across the country.
Right.
And so that's what led me to take my expertise and be able to put my shingle out. But I had already been a consultant even when I was doing my 9 to 5.
Right.
And it
Right.
just so happens that maybe 1 year out of having my own shingle, a
Yeah.
publicist came to me and asked me would I help with one of her clients. Her client had a podcast and he wanted to have the longest running, and mind you, she didn't use the word podcast. She said radio, internet radio.
Right.
And he was trying to have the longest. And she said, do you want to be the host or the podcast? I mean, host or the guest?
Oh,
And
right.
I said, number one, I have control issues, so I'd rather be the host. And number
Yeah.
two, I majored in communications and I
Mm.
took a course on radio and I know how to do a radio show.
Yeah.
And so it was perfect for me. But that guy didn't work out. He wasn't professional enough for me. So then
Right.
she came back to me and said there was this guy named Clark Garrison who
Yeah.
had a network called Survival Radio Network.
Right.
And he was looking for people who wanted to have shows. And I said, well, there is a need for people to know Black women in athletic administration. They
Hmm.
don't know where they are. They don't believe that we're out here. So I
Yeah.
said I will do a show highlighting Black women in athletic administration, and
Hmm.
I've been doing. August will be my 10th season.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's quite long going.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
So it has been really great. People get excited when I travel to conferences and whatnot. They're going
Mm.
like, "Oh, you're the chat in the garden lady." And I'm actually booked now.
Hmm.
I want to say February of
Right.
2024.
Right. Wow. Wow. Okay. Busy schedule ahead for you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I was particularly interested in, how you got into athletics management and how you stayed
Oh,
passionate for such a long time. Can you maybe, yeah, tell us how you got into this profession at first?
well, I kept scores in the 8th grade.
Right.
Both my parents taught school,
Yep.
and my father's co-worker was the basketball coach, and he
Yeah.
said, "Can my nickname is Tony?" So he says,
Oh,
"Can
okay.
Tony
Okay.
keep scores for us?"
Right.
And there's something about my brain and how it ticks on my analysis paralysis. So I would do more than just do that. And because I had desire to write stories,
Hmm.
to be a writer,
Yeah.
I would practice writing stories, sports stories.
Right.
So when I went to college, I was like the only woman sports writer.
Right. Right.
And so the first job I got, a sports information is like sports PR for athletic team.
Right.
And so I enjoyed writing stories of my players and
Hmm.
putting it in their hometown newspaper.
Right.
So it really is like a PR marketing person. Slogans come to me very easily.
Yeah.
It was just one that part came to me easily. Now,
Right.
how it really got into administration, I
Hmm.
was waiting for somebody to give me my roster.
Hmm.
Somebody had to go check to see if the kids were eligible. I'm
Hmm.
still waiting, waiting, waiting. And like, you know what? I'm gonna go to figure out how to get this done myself. And
Right.
that's usually a lot of the administrative parts, you
Right.
know,
Right.
trying to close the hole of what needs to be done. And people gravitate to people who get things done, not the titles. And
Mm.
that's how I became athletic director by default
Right.
because they were I went through 5 different athletic directors
Right.
and they were like so the president tracked me down while I was working the Olympics in 96
Yeah.
in Atlanta, and he said your current athletic director is leaving. I would like for you to be interim athletic director. And I said, I don't know, let me think about it. And then that night the bomb went off
Hmm.
at Atlanta Olympics, and I said life is short.
Mm. Why
I'll
not
go
try
ahead and
something
take
new? Right.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So just being one, I didn't know the term logistics, but I've been a planner. I always laugh and say, if you came to my house when we were little kids, I would have already planned out which board games we're gonna play first, second, and
Wow.
third. Yeah,
Wow.
I was that kind of. My husband says you take the fun out of stuff. I said no, I just don't want to miss anything.
Well, maybe what you think is fun is not what your husband think is fun.
That's
Vice
right.
versa. Sometimes that's how things go. But you also touch upon, the admin stuff that you have to go through. Like how do you stay positive all the time and how do
Ooh,
you still have enjoyment?
that's really interesting you should say that because
Mm-hmm.
when you're dealing with people,
Mm-hmm.
human beings,
Hmm.
you do have to have good emotional intelligence.
Yeah, that's
You
that's
know,
difficult
yeah,
sometimes.
it is. You have to be really aware of self.
Yeah.
You really have to be aware of what gives you energy and what takes away your energy,
Mm.
and what you need to do to replenish that.
Yeah.
And be aware of how you're looking and the words you say. And if you know that you're not your best,
Hmm.
you need to figure out a way how to get better real fast.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm really big on growth mindset versus fixed mindset.
Right.
And in order to be really aware, you have to be really cautious of what input that you allow.
Hmm.
So I don't watch reality TV. I
Okay.
don't watch Jerry Springer and things of that nature. And music. I try to listen to gospel music
Okay.
so that, it's like earworms. You don't know why these things are going off in your head. So when you do have a stump your toe moment,
Yeah.
you have some 90% is going to be positive because that's what you put in, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I'm real cautious about that.
Hmm.
Really, really cautious about that because that's what protects me
Hmm.
from getting into that stinking thinking,
Yeah.
you know. And you just because it's like when I do executive coaching for people who want to advance, well, actually women who
Hmm.
want to advance in athletic administration, and I say it's about being strategic, and I use the game chess to explain it.
Yeah.
So on a chessboard, the queen has the most opportunities because they have so many opportunities to move any kind of way.
Yeah.
However, even if they are in a corner, pushed in a corner, they still have more options to anybody else on the board.
Mm.
The ideal place to be is to be in the center so that
Mm.
you can have more opportunities and more options. And so I say concentrate on what allows you to be centered. And you have got to be really aware of what, and I used to say triggers, but
Yeah.
I would say activation points. What are your activation points? You know, and to say the different words, what gets on your nerves? You
Mm.
know, what's going to trigger you to act out of character?
Yeah.
You got to know that and don't put yourselves in that kind of environment. It's like if you get allergies
Hmm.
and you know that certain things are going to occur, you
Mm.
prepare yourself. You may spray yourself down.
Yeah.
You know, you may spray your nose.
But
You may wear a mask.
but you can't
Oh,
give up. Yeah, you
but you
can't.
may not even go there at all.
Mm.
You
Mm.
can send somebody else. So, like for instance, if you have one person that you just don't click well with,
Hmm.
be strategic and send someone else with your concerns and have them
Mm.
report back to you. So you get a better outcome than you would if it was just you. You know, can't get caught up of, oh no, that's my idea, that's my message. You got
Right.
to be more concerned about the outcome than how you go about going to get the outcome.
Well, very well said. And politics, whether daily or big or small, always comes up in some form or the
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
It's how you deal with it, I guess, with a positive mindset.
Well, let's say this. It's how you play the game. And because I'm in athletics,
Hmm.
playing is not a dirty word. So therefore politics is not a dirty word. You
Yeah.
just got to know the rules of engagement
Hmm.
and play the game and play it to win. Well,
Right. Right. Well, you might not be, like a runner or a sports person, but you certainly know everything inside out about athletics. Um, I think the term time management, comes up quite a lot when, you talk about your values and,
mm-hmm.
how you carried yourself, the past few decades. I think you told me, just before we recorded this interview that you had to juggle between a 9 to 5 job and starting your own business before going all in. So, can you walk us through how you juggled both at the same time?
um, well, when I was doing the 9 to 5, um, my consulting was really, doing a workshop here and there. So that really
Yeah,
wasn't a juggle piece. I would say more the juggling of being a consultant and having more than one client
yeah,
is the juggle, And
right,
so
right,
I,
right.
I tell people, you have to set boundaries. And the boundaries in this case are about access,
Yeah, yeah.
and access would come, it's not necessarily who pays you the most,
Mm-hmm.
but there's certain things I do. So I'll do executive coaching on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to schedule to get on my calendar.
Right,
You know,
right.
even if you might have paid up front for like 6 months.
Yeah.
I give you a code to make that money amount go away. But I even have a price point. It's called Pick Your Brain.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
none of my time is wasted, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And so I can plan in my time and, as you say, juggle, but able to manage, um, I would say, my opportunities. Again, language is key because how you describe something has something to do with your brain and how you look at it. Like if you talk about change, I
Mm-hmm.
don't use change. I said we're evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Evolving create juices will keep on going. But when you say change, your body goes into fight or flight.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, very important to, think of which word to use.
Yeah.
So, well, you had to, juggle between, different jobs, different clients, well in advance, you've got to plan your time well. And then you got to the point where you could, focus full time on your business in the end. So, could you let us how you're doing your business and, how you find meaning in what you do in your business?
Well, it's really interesting because I did invest in a bookkeeper because to be honest, I
Yeah.
didn't really do my bookkeeping until tax time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. So, but I have a meeting once a month to let me know where I am.
Yeah.
And knowing is really, I mean, you see my smile. I really am
Mm-hmm.
doing better than what I thought. because I was like, oh. And so when you know your numbers, you know what to throw the gasoline on it, you
Yeah.
know, and even things that have not gone exactly the way you want, it's not failure, it's just feedback about
Mm.
how to go about it differently. And so I will say, like I said, um, it's going well because now the thing that I can't say fear, I'm just not really a I was gonna do my numbers at the end of the year, as I told you. And so that's just not really smart because I'm missing out on the feedback in
Hmm.
order to try to grow in certain areas and to do some, oh, this is going well. Well, let's two
Yeah.
times that or three times that and to see where you are and put your efforts in. So I would say that has been a real big plus. And I was an adjunct professor
Yeah.
at an institution that's only 4 lights away.
Hmm.
I had to let that go.
Hmm.
Um, Not necessarily. I mean, I'm not necessarily totally out, but they're going to
Yeah.
hire 2 full-time professors. So if you
Mm.
get 2 full-time professors, you don't have room for adjunct.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and so to me, it was like, okay, I'll just take that time to double down on what I'm doing,
Mm.
and I will say that of recent, some of my executive coaching city athletic directors have
Mm.
asked me to work with their staff
Right.
one on one as a part of their performance improvement plans.
Right.
So that's something of increase. So I've been doing more of not one ups, meaning one university workshops.
Yeah.
I've been doing some individual executive coaching, some group coaching,
Mhm.
and then so it becomes more of a package deal
Mhm.
versus a one-time deal.
Right.
And lastly, it's when you talk about uh, universities, um, it's easier. This is I do get leads almost every day.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Into my private Facebook group.
Yeah.
It's a companion to the podcast.
Yeah.
And I do go to conventions
Yeah.
where my ideal client is. And I can just sit in one spot and everybody just pass by and everybody says, oh, I want to be in your magazine, or can you come to a university workshop? So those things are starting to happen.
Yeah.
And I do have three individuals that are part of the team. Two are interns and one is administrative assistant.
I see. Well, you must have, spent a lot of time building up this community of yours because, you know, otherwise everybody would have, been an entrepreneur if it's that easy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
what would you say are your challenges and as an entrepreneur, and how do you keep yourself going?
Well, first of all, educators educate for free.
Right.
And so learning how to package my specialized knowledge to get paid
Hmm.
was a difficult thing to understand going from an educator to an entrepreneur
Right.
because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. Very
And I
true.
really did not know. I was like, so what's a lead magnet? What's a funnel? You
Right.
know, and but
Must
thank
be another
goodness,
language at that
oh
time.
my goodness. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And even creating my group coaching really is a course,
Hmm.
but it's not like a course you take watch this video. So when I work with them, I said, okay, you need to watch this video. This is the deficiency that you have. So it's the
Yeah.
same way that you would teach class. You do an assessment, you figure out where you need to help the person in this area. So that's a plus because I already know how to do that part.
Right.
Um, but the thing is just not knowing what you don't know. And for me, that was a struggle because I just did not know how to package it. So
Yeah.
I invested in some masterminds and some groups. And
Yeah.
I will tell you, the pandemic was pretty good because I got a chance to learn a lot online.
Right.
And one of the groups is Speak Your Way to Cash. And
Hmm.
that's when I learned how to propose packages instead of me just doing one workshop. And when I do the workshops, I'm able to see an area that I can do a project for an
Mhm.
institution.
Mhm. Right, I see. And then I think, you also started your podcast around the same time when you started your business. So, can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Well, I shared how I gained the podcast. It was because of a publicist
Sure.
introduced me to the network.
Right,
And again, I did not know. And I did not like the fact we call ourselves a radio show because I was like, this is disingenuous. I majored in this. This is not radio.
right.
But when we start using the word podcast, I was like, oh, yes, I can agree to that. And so that's how now the business full time
Mhm.
um, happened in March. The podcast began in August
Right,
of 2013.
right.
And I had no idea what a Facebook group was. He had the network person to tell me what that was. He said, you have to have one. I was like, okay, to go with your podcast. I said, okay. And that's how we have gotten to be 2,900 members inside the private Facebook group.
As of today.
Yeah. Mhm.
Wow, wow. 2,900 is quite a big number. Um, so, can you tell us, based on your vast experience, like in your career as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's worked full time as well, for people who are maybe struggling at their jobs, what advice would you give them if they, were to, let's say, if they should change jobs, if they should stay where they are, if they should start a business, like what kind of advice would you give them?
Well, I'll give you the advice that I give to all of my clients. The
Yeah,
first thing I do is a mindset work.
right.
So, because honestly, there's something that when you become older, you don't take risks because you're afraid of what you're going to lose.
Mm,
And so it's a mindset. Again, remember, it's about language, it's about perspective.
yeah,
And even if you get a pink slip, we still got to do some mindset work because you might be bitter instead of trying to get better. And you can't go to your next if you're still bitter. It's just like any type of relationship. If you can say what you got out of it,
mhm,
then you won't be so upset about what you think something was done to you. You might think about it as something done for you.
right.
And so when I say to that is, if you're considering that, I want to see what got you to where you are. So I asked the question, what guides your decisions? Because
Mhm,
you'd be surprised how many people went into a profession
mhm,
because grandma, granddad,
mhm,
or whomever said this is what you need to do.
mhm.
And you don't want to let them down. And guess what? You're resentful
Right,
and you don't know that you are. So you're passive aggressive at your job. And that's why you're not enjoying it because you never should have been there anyway.
right, right, right.
Now, if you want to do something that's passionate, I will say you definitely need more than one income stream.
Mhm,
You see what I'm saying? If you want to be able to do something, so like actually being an adjunct does not pay. But
right.
I was able to do it because I had some other things that I had an income stream for. So I was able to do what I enjoy
Mhm,
because I had some areas that weren't, I can't say so joyous, but it was work that would help me go do the other piece.
right, right. I think it's a great way to maybe like try and quantify things and think from a practical perspective as well. When you're in a bit of a hole. But it's been a great pleasure to have you on the podcast. I think it's about time is nearly running out, but um yeah, pleasure talking to you and hope to see you again in the future.
Well, thank you. I don't know if you are on LinkedIn, but that's why I like to communicate with individuals
Oh
is on
yeah,
LinkedIn.
I am. I
And
am.
then
I
if,
always keep in touch with my guests after the interview.
okay, all right.
99%, I would say.
Well, I
Um,
look forward to talking with you there. And if anyone is interested in learning about my athletic administrative journey, I
yeah.
have a chapter called Public Figure Mask, and that can be found at publicfiguremask.com. publicfiguremask.com.
Okay, I'll include that in the description so that nobody misses out on that.
Thank
So
you so
yeah,
much.
a big thank you again to you, and have a great day.